Welcome to the Fall 2022 Career Acceleration Scholarship Info Session. Agenda today, I'll talk a little bit about me. I'm going to share some data about the industry, about the tech industry in terms of diversity. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the root causes of hiring biases, not just in tech, but in life, unfortunately, in general. Then talk about what you can do about it. And then I'm really excited to be announcing the Fall 2022 BIT Blacks in Technology Kadima Scholarship Program. And then we will have time for Q&A. So I'm going to try to keep this presentation to no longer than 40 minutes. So hopefully that works. A lot of people don't know who I am. So right there, that ID was my first ID I got when I was 17 years old. There's a couple of embarrassing things on that. One, the mullet. I used to have a mullet. I used to have an earring, never at the same time. Secondly, I said I was 5'10". I'm not 5'10". I'm 5'8". For some reason, I thought I was 5'10". I've lost 2 inches over the years, but no one at the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, ever checked on that. So my first ID said I was 5'10". But a little bit more about my height and my mullet. This is a little bit about me and my career. So when I worked at Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg used to speak to a lot of the leaders there and non-leaders, just people at Meta, at Facebook, and said, don't think about your career as a career ladder, but rather think about it as a jungle gym. And I think that's a really great metaphor. And thinking about my career, how it's gone. I graduated from a public university, undergrad, Binghamton University. If anyone's here from Binghamton, woohoo. After that, I thought I was going to go into psychology. I got into a very prestigious PhD program in psychology. After a semester, I realized it wasn't what I was looking for. Went on to Wall Street. From Wall Street, I got invited into an opportunity to work in venture capital. I didn't even know what it was when I was asked about it, but I was like, sure, sounds interesting. Went into VC. I was in VC for 3 years. It was not the best time to be in VC. I wasn't really passionate about it. What I was passionate about was sports and analytics, and wound up figuring out a way to get a job for the New York Mets and the Toronto Blue Jays. After that, realized that the pay sucked. The work-life balance sucked, so I returned to business school, went to Columbia Business School, and from there, I wanted to work in analytical-based marketing and brand marketing and stay in New York. So Amex was a great opportunity for me. I set my target on that, landed Amex. Was at Amex for nearly 6 years. I got tired of people telling me at American Express that your career, and especially your career at American Express, is more like a marathon than a sprint. I like to move fast. So I kind of got a little frustrated with that and set my targets on big tech, especially Google. After 5 rejections from there, I finally got someone to speak to me. 11 interviews later, got hired by Google. Was there for nearly 6 years, left Google, worked at a couple of different startups, including Andela for folks in Nigeria or Nairobi or in Africa that may have heard of Andela. I was a VP of Ops there for a brief period of time. Realized that the startup space doesn't pay as well. The work-life balance isn't as good, and went back to big tech. Went to Facebook, where I was paid about triple the income, and then from Facebook went over to Salesforce, to Tableau. Tableau got acquired by Salesforce, and then last year I left my career at Salesforce to go all in on Kadima, where I am really passionate about accelerating careers. So that's a little bit about me. Now, before I go into my theories and ideas and suggestions, why should you listen to me? There's 4 primary reasons. One, I happen to have interviewed a shit ton of people, and hopefully it's okay for me to be dropping some profanity here. I'm from Brooklyn. My mom has a potty mouth. It's going to be hard to beat that one out of me, but I will try to stop the cursing. Top 1% interviewer. I've looked at 10,000 resumes. I've interviewed 2,000 people. I've hired hundreds of people at these top companies. Also, on the flip side, I have interviewed a lot of times myself at companies. I believe I've interviewed at 1,000 companies or so. I've received dozens of offers. I've worked at 21 companies. I've held 29 jobs. Then, before I started Kadima, I went crazy with trying to interview for companies, partly to mitigate a potential risk of losing my job at Salesforce, but also to do research for Kadima. And over that course of about 6 months, I applied to 300 roles. I interviewed 117 times. I got interviewed for 47 roles. I got to the finals and got offers for 5 of them. And it's all the same shit. So I did the research and I understand what's going on with all these different sort of companies. And then finally, I happen to be fortunate to have some privilege, be born a white dude in America, with parents that were able to afford a public school education for me. And I was able to get into Columbia Business School, get into prestigious PhD program in psychology. So I have that education and privilege, which now I'm dedicating and providing back to others. So why I care about DEI, and DEI, for people that don't know that acronym, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sometimes there's also a B there for belonging. So up there, there's me, and picture with my grandpa's change thing. I don't know what it's called, but he was a cab driver, a blue collar cab driver from Brooklyn, and he did not go to college. I'm fortunate that he was able to build his life here in America. And I happen to be a first generation college grad. I graduated the same year as my mom. Coincidentally, she wound up going back to school, but we're tied for first generation college graduates. And I was born in Brooklyn, very diverse. I was born in Long Island, grew up in New York all my life. So I am used to a diverse environment. Secondly, I was at Google in 2012 when Trayvon Martin was murdered, and it was a horrible situation. They brought out lots of leaders across Google. Sorry, not lots of leaders. 2 leaders across Google attended lots of meetings because there were not a lot of Black leaders at Google. So they brought out the two people, Torrance Boone and Benita Stewart. They were at almost every town hall talking about the terrible situation and what Google was going to do about it. Fast forward 8 years, and a lot of shit occurred in between. But when I was at Salesforce in 2020, George Floyd got murdered. I'm sure everybody's aware and painfully aware of that. I heard a lot of the same conversation going on at Salesforce, and lots of the same efforts being discussed. But looking back on the last 8 years, not so much change had really occurred. So that was kind of frustrating for me. And finally, I don't know if people are familiar with Ibram Kendi's book about how to be an anti-racist, but he really talks about how it's not enough for white people and people that want to support anti-racist behavior just to say that they're not racist, but they really need to be taking proactive anti-racist action. My wife was reading that to my kids during COVID, and it was like, I didn't read it, but I listened to her reading it to my kids. And his stuff resonated with me. And I was like, okay, how can I take some action here to give back? So that's all some of the influence of why I give a crap about this very important subject. Now, let me share some cold, hard facts. And I'm sure many of you on this call right now are aware of some of this, but I'm a very data-driven person. So let me share some data here. First off, before I get the data, there are a lot of performative action. So if you go to equality.com, Salesforce paid a lot of money to acquire that URL. And it looks like a very nice message. And I was at Salesforce, and I do believe they genuinely care about diversity. But they have this big splashy landing page. Then when you scroll down on that page, you see their numbers. And the numbers are not as attractive. But kudos to Salesforce, kudos to a lot of these companies that are actually disclosing the information in a transparent manner. But if you look at the percent of Black employees, 4.8%. Sure, many of you are aware in the US, the Black representation is, I believe, 13.4%. Something's amiss. Something's amiss with women. Something's amiss with Latinx as well. The US population is about 18.5% Latinx. And it's not just Salesforce. I'm not here to go off on any particular company. I do think that their hearts are in the right places. But if you look at the results and you look at the numbers across Black, across Latinx, across female, across all these underrepresented populations, these companies are talking a big game, but they are not nearly far enough along on their path of addressing the situation. And I can tell you, when I was at Google and Larry Page and Sergey Brin tasked Sundar Pichai with make Chrome the biggest browser in the world, he did that in 2 years. And now everyone has Chrome. They had ambitious goals, they fought for it, and they achieved it. So these things are achievable if the companies care. But that's just some of the results here. Now, let me tell you a little bit from my opinion of why the talk doesn't match the walk. And I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I do like this Yoda quote, do or do not, there is no try. So all this talk, it's cheap. Let me relate 3 stories that I encountered during my time. And I'm not going to say which companies they were at. It doesn't really matter. This could have frankly occurred at any of the companies I was at. When I was at one of my companies, I spoke to a senior leader there and said, hey, there's a great opportunity for us to hire Black program managers on our team. I have a friend in the organization that's willing to take me down to the HBCUs, to Howard, I think he was going to take me to. And I think he had a connection with Spelman as well, and a couple of others. I forget which ones, but I know Howard was definitely on the list. I spoke to my director and said, hey, can we do this? His response to me was essentially, you know what, Alan? It's too hard to find Black talent. There are 50% of the world are women, only 13% are Black. I don't know if he knew that number, but he knew it was significantly smaller than women. And he's like, focus on women instead. I was kind of in shock. I was like, why can't we do both, especially at Spelman? Secondly, another situation when we were dealing with offshoring talent, not offshoring, it was going to be employees of one of these companies where we're basically, instead of hiring talent in the US and Europe, we were going to hire talent in India, which was 25% the cost. So instead of $100,000 headcount, it would be about $25,000 headcount. We were going to do that. We were going to hire about 30 people in India. I proposed to this leader that, hey, why don't we hire 4 people through the Year Up program? If anyone's familiar with yearup.org, it's a great organization that helps inner city underrepresented individuals get into tech. But the cost of those people would have been about $50,000 instead of about $25,000 in India. But I was only talking about 4 people versus 26 in India. I was shouted at and yelled at of, you're distracting the situation, keep it simple, we're not doing it. So that was another situation. Then later, when that leader had some pressure from above, he came back and we wound up hiring 2 people from Europe, but I never got the credit. I just got yelled at. Third, when I was at a company, when I was running Kadima, I would find lots of talented Black candidates, and I would find these Black candidates and put them in through our referral pipeline and say, hey, these are clients of mine. I do not want a referral bonus. Just look at them. They're a good fit for this role. Even though I had approval to do Kadima, even though I was on the up and up, I got my wrist slapped because I was essentially doing the job of what recruiting was supposed to be doing. And I was told I can no longer refer any client that I work with or anyone that, like, at all. So that's just some of the stuff, because the recruiting team thought that I was doing their job for them. And frankly, I was, because they were not recruiting as effectively and building a diverse pipeline as best they can. So those are just some stories. I don't think there is intent and intention against this, but it's like there's politics at play there. I don't really like, it's too difficult for some people, but these are some stories that are occurring. So I'm telling you those stories not to be stuck on the side of the highway, not to rubberneck at all this bullshit that's going on, because that is one of my pet peeves. You can ask my kids, when I drive in the car, if there's an accident on the side of the road, I make sure that I'm looking ahead. And I tell my family, I'm like, hey, if there's anything good here, let me know, but I'm not slowing down traffic. You got to keep progressing ahead. And with that, there's this good book called Extreme Ownership. I do want to couch the fact that this book was written by 2 white dudes that are Marines, are very privileged individuals. But the premise of this book, if anyone has heard of this book, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, and Jocko Willink is more, I guess, famous, is you can either take a victim attitude about all this shit that's going on with you, or you can take ownership of it. And he's pretty extreme, Jocko, in the book. He's a Marine. And but I do think that you need to take ownership. The situation is what it is. There are things that hopefully we can do to improve that. But until that change is going to occur, you need to take ownership of your career. And again, as I say this, as a white dude, I fully understand it's easier to do that in my positions often. But I think it is a good mentality to have that this shit is not going to change overnight. So you need to you've got to play on the field. You got to play with the rules that exist now. So knowing that, let me share a little information about how the game is really played. But there are 3 strategies to secure a job. There's 3 main pathways in to secure a job. You can cold apply to an organization, get your resume in. And if you're applying at the right place, at the right time, at the right role, you may very well get an opportunity to be considered. You can be recruited. So someone may reach out to you on LinkedIn or some other way. And usually the way they're deciding on who to reach out to is they're looking at the companies you've worked at, titles you've held, schools that you've been at. And third, there's referral. Referral is the smallest number of applicants. Only 7% of this funnel comes in from referrals. But when we talk about who gets hired, 40% of people that get hired were referred. So it's really critical to understand those referrals and understand that you can influence that. The one on the left and the right, the cold apply and the referred, are things that you can impact. Being recruited, there's some things you can do there minimally to make yourself more attractive, to make yourself more recruitable. But if you did not go to a top school, if you do not have top companies on your resume right now, you do not have the titles you're seeking, it's going to be a lot harder to impact that. You can tweak that a little bit, but less impact. So then once you get into those 3, once you get considered by a human, you get into this funnel. I call it the job acquisition funnel. And at the top of it, there's a screening process. And this is for big tech companies. This is for any attractive company. And I work with people that get into Johnson & Johnson and Unilever and Allstate and companies that have very attractive titles and opportunities there. But resumes are submitted. There was thousands, especially at Google and Facebook and Salesforce when I was there. Within a week or two, you'd have 100 or 200 resumes. Within 2 weeks, within a few weeks, we would have thousands of resumes. Then the recruiter manually reviews those, and people overestimate the power of ATS's application tracking software, and underestimate they just misunderstand that, and then they spend way too much on trying to beat the ATS. I won't go into there too much now, but if you get past the recruiter manual review, that recruiter will call you up, or they'll schedule some time via email. They'll talk to you, and you're all excited because Amazon's talking to you. Well, that recruiter is also talking to 20 other people. You get past the recruiter, then you get to the hiring manager. You're super excited there. Then you're still competing with 5 to 10 people. If you get past a hiring manager, then you get onto the interview loops or on-sites, and you're all excited. You're like, oh my, like Stripe is bringing me on site here. They're really serious about me. But they're also serious about 3 to 5 other candidates because these companies are attractive and they're getting lots of good candidates. Then if you're fortunate and you interview well and you're prepared, you are hireable. If you are the only one, you'll get the offer. If you're number 2 or 3, they will keep you warm until they find out if they can get that number 1 person signed. And then if you're that number 1 person or the best next opportunity, you can begin negotiating and get that offer. But that just shows the odds for every particular role of how they are stacked against you. So going a little bit more in depth here, there are 3 stages of the interview. There's a recruiting screen. The recruiter will ask you sort of questions like this. They want to understand if you meet the basic qualifications of the role, so that when the recruiter sends you to stage 2 to the hiring manager, they do not embarrass themselves. They do not waste the hiring manager's time. The hiring manager then is seeking primarily 2 pieces of information. 1, your subject matter expertise. Can you do the things that I need you to do for this role? Number 2, can I manage you effectively? Because they are going to be your boss. The third part are the loops. You'll see the hiring manager again, often for the loops where they'll dig in deeper. You'll see three other people, most likely white, could be Asian, occasionally black, but very rarely will you see that. And at the loops, they will say it will be all behavioral-based interviewing. And if you do not know what behavioral-based interviewing is, whether you join our accelerated program or not, figure out what behavioral-based interviewing is. Almost every large company uses behavioral-based interviewing. And it's basically answering a question of, tell me about a time you had to deliver exceptional sales results with minimal resources. And the way you answer that is with the STAR method. The situation was this. The task I did was this. The actions I took were A, B, C. And as a result, I got this. So you don't have to say those specific words, but that's a framework that you use. And then in each of those interviews, so here you're talking to the recruiter, the hiring manager, 4 more interviews. So you have about 6 of these conversations likely. In each of those 6 conversations, there are 4 phases of that interview process. Phase 1, this is critical, building rapport. People that like you will be more positively inclined to say that they would want to hire you. And you got to build that rapport. This shit works. Second part, tell me about yourself. Every interview has walk me through your resume or tell me about yourself or what brought you here today. You need to have that succinct in 2 to 4 minutes, and it has to make sense of why you were here for that particular role in that company. 3, this is what scares people the most. It should not be as scary because you can often predict these based on looking at the job description and preparing, but the questions that they have for you. Maybe about 30 or 35 minutes of questions for you, 5 to 6 questions, maybe a little bit of digging deeper. Then questions from you to the company, and you better have some questions for them, and it better not be, what are the hours that I have to work here? You need to have some good questions. Yeah, have a few ready to go, and then you can alter them a little bit based on the conversation. But that's how all these conversations go. So with that in mind, what I've developed over the course of my years and working in this business for a while is what I call the growth framework. And the growth framework works, and I'll share some data of how it works. But essentially what it is first, it's important that you establish your goals. Identify what's important for you, what values matter to you, and identify which companies will help you get there. And focus on the company and focus on a target list of 40 companies. Secondly, realistically assess your strengths and leverage your strengths. So if you are a salesperson and you want to go into product, you are not going to get hired as a product manager. You are going to get hired as a salesperson. Do what you've done before. Then once you get in, there are ways to pivot. But realistically understand what you've done before and leverage those strengths. Third, this is probably the most important. Well, I don't know, they're all important, but the area where people should put the most time and effort into, outreach. So once you know those companies you want to work at, you re-engage people that are there. Or if you do not have people that are currently at those companies, you figure out ways to reach out to those individuals and build relationships, not transactional requests for referrals, but building authentic, meaningful relationships, people that will open doors for you. And again, I've had 29 jobs in my career. 24 of those doors were open because someone said, hey, Alan's a decent guy, you should talk to him. I still had to go through the interviews, but you need that network. It's who you know more than what you know. Fourth, work the system. Apply for the right roles, matching your strengths, at the right companies, matching your target list, at the right times when those roles are posted. So work the system, do that consistently on a weekly basis and get those applications in. Fifth, train for those interviews. They are trainable. So when I took my SATs when I was in 10th or 11th grade, first time I got a score of 1010, my mom was really upset with my English the verbal part. I got 400, which was very poor. So she sent me to a tutor. I was privileged enough that she was able to afford that, and she did that for me. But I raised my score on the SAT from 1010 to 1330 Just like I can learn how to do the SAT and people can, you can learn and train and get better at interviewing. And you need to build up tenacity because you will get rejected a lot. Last time I interviewed, I had 300 applications. As I said, I got 5 offers. That means that 295 times I got rejected. Who cares? Move on. Then number 6, high impact negotiations. Most people do not know what they're worth. Most people will fuck that up if they talk about it too early. You do not talk about that early. You wait till you get the offer, and there's ways to do that. And you wait till you get the offer. And then once you get the offer, then you begin with high impact negotiation. They are indicating that they want you. And then all of a sudden you have leverage, you have hand to get more out of them. So the growth framework, it simply works. So with me, this same process helped me narrow down 20 top PhD programs in psychology and get into one great PhD program. It helped me identify the baseball teams that I wanted to work for and get me a job at the New York Mets. It helped me to identify the top MBA schools that met my criteria and helped me to land into Columbia Business School. It helped me identify the top marketing companies in New York, and that helped me identify American Express. Same with the technology side. I wanted big tech. I wanted top companies. I built a target list out, and I achieved my goal. And with Kadima is a little bit of a different thing, but everything that has built up on those 5 other mountain peaks has led to what I'm bringing back here with Kadima. So the growth framework is not just for me. It has helped real people. So Harold here, he reached out to me when he was looking for an internship at Salesforce. I gave him the advice of like, dude, don't put all your eggs in one basket. He also looked at Amazon and others, got a great job at Amazon. Anielle, was a client of mine and now a friend, and all these actually people are friends now. Anielle, she was a consultant in Massachusetts. She set her sights on program manager. She wanted to work at one of the top FANG companies. She has a role now at Meta in Austin, Texas, making $80,000 more and paying a hell of a lot less state income tax because Texas tax is cheaper and it's a cheaper place to live than Massachusetts. And they paid to ship her and her husband down to Austin. Brittany, great person. She started with at Georgia Pacific. Then she got a role at Supernatural, which is a company that was going to be purchased by Meta, wound up falling through. Once she updated her profile on LinkedIn, Apple became interested in her. Now she's working at Apple, about 2 times the amount of compensation that she had. Then finally, Alan here. Oh, shoot, I shouldn't have said his name. He has the same name as me. He's an anonymous Google product manager. But he went from Genpact to Microsoft and then to Google. So following the growth framework. So now enough about all that stuff. Here's a special opportunity for Blacks in Technology members. We are doubling the BIT Kadima Career Acceleration Scholarship. So back in May, we had 3 scholarships. This time, because of the generosity of BIT and the generosity of Kadima, we are doubling these to 6 scholarships to be awarded in December. Past successes, I'll show you a quick video clip of that shortly. And we have an enhancement to the program, which may sound a little burdensome to you, but after speaking to Dennis, who's at Blacks in Technology, is requiring people to have some skin in the game. So while it is a full scholarship, we are asking people to put $250 in an escrow account that basically says that I am committed to this program. And once you go through the program and you do what we ask, you will get your money back. And if you don't get your money back, we are going to reinvest that in scholarships. So it's not for me to profit. It's not for Blacks in Tech to profit. It is to hold you accountable and to make sure that we have the right people in this program. So what you get with this is you are going to get 6 one-on-one coaching sessions with me. You are going to get twice a week. We have office hours where you drop in with any questions and obstacles you're hitting. You are going to get access to KJAM, the job acquisition method. It's an online course with about 10 hours of videos worksheets, templates, documentation on how you can do everything, honestly, without meeting me. But you also have the opportunity to work with me as well in addition to that course. And then you get virtually unlimited access to me via email. You will get my email. I will reply to you. We will help you get awesome jobs quickly. In addition to that, you are going to get intros to the vast network of industry contacts. So I do make introductions, although I will push back on you first and teach you how to fish for yourself. It's more helpful for you long-term, and it will be more effective in the referrals you get. Secondly, we're going to have guests in with big tech backgrounds. I will give you access to secretly recorded interviews from big tech companies. So I have done lots of these interviews and I have them recorded, and we will share those with you. I will provide LinkedIn, either I or other better coaches than me will be providing you with LinkedIn and resume feedback that you can take action on. You're going to get personal feedback on your job interviews. And also, probably the most valuable thing is once you get that offer, we help you negotiate for more. And I actually have a good YouTube video where I break down a 20-page offer letter from Google. So when you get an offer from Google, it's 20 pages long, and damn, it's confusing. But if you understand it, you can earn a lot more money through effective negotiation. So this amazing opportunity, we are giving away $60,000 in scholarships, and you're among the lucky who can be selected. So there's about nearly 100 people on this call, and a couple hundred more are going to be watching the replay. But you have a very good shot of getting this opportunity. We're only giving 6 scholarships away. You'll get exclusive access to me. It will help you build your network, and you will get all this insider information. So let me see if I can play this, and let's see if this works well.
Hi, everyone. Have you ever been at a point where you felt like it's time to take the next step in your career and you're feeling stuck in your job search? Well, that was me. I went through 6 months of rigorous interviews with no plan, and I received 0 offers. Then a colleague that I met through LinkedIn introduced me to Alan Stein, and Alan briefed me on his career accelerator program called Kadima Careers. I was provided with so many resources on how to strategically manage my job search, to updating my resume, optimizing my LinkedIn profile, to receiving resources on how to network through LinkedIn. I came into the program wanting to land my target role within 3 months, and I did just that. And not only that, I was able to more than double my salary and land a role that met all of my needs. My name is Maya, and the Kadima program provided me with the tools that helped me accelerate my career.
Cool. So Maya was one of our great successes from the fall, from the spring program. And hoping to have some more successes in the fall program. Let me get the next slide. Oh, sorry. Uh-oh. Okay, there. So now the good stuff, how to apply to the Blacks in Tech and Kadima Career Acceleration Scholarship. So take a picture of the QR code. We'll also send out an email with this and remind you a couple of times. But to apply, go to kadimacareers.com/BIT. Step 2, while I'm digesting my turkey and having playing some football and drinking some beer, I will be reviewing your applications over Thanksgiving weekend. So get them in. Then winners will be selected and start by December 1st. Potential outcomes, just to be totally transparent. We only have 6 winners, only 6 scholarships to offer. We will offer them. We will have a waiting list as well, but once the 6 are selected, we are done. We are also providing discounts to everybody in Blacks in Tech. So if you think you can benefit from KJAM to start or KCAP, we are giving 25% off our services until the end of November, November 30th. And for those that we don't think a financial investment is best course of action, we'll share that with you, and we'll tell you, hey, here's some free resources for you. Do this first and then come back to us. So to answer your question, what goes into our decision-making process in these applications? 1, we're looking to see if you have the right growth mindset. 2, are you motivated to do the work? 3, will you promise that you'll take advantage of these opportunities? And that's where that $250 deposit comes in. 4, the schools that you went to, that will play into it, because some of these companies look at those schools And it will also help you to build your network. So we're not discriminating because of that, but we want to make sure that we are picking the right people that will have the success. And I'm not talking about Harvard and Yale and Stanford, but schools with decent brand name recognition, decent alumni bases, that helps improve your chances. It does not eliminate anyone, but this goes into the play. Also, the companies will be taking a factor. Titles that you've had, I'm going to be looking at your LinkedIn profile and I'm going to be evaluating based on that. You do not need to rewrite your LinkedIn profile. That's fine. You can rewrite that after, but I will be looking at your LinkedIn profiles, where you're eligible to work. So we're not discriminating based on that, but the companies that we help people get into are only hiring in some certain locations, a lot of locations, but that's going to be a criteria. This is designed for underrepresented individuals, so we're going to be looking into that. And early birds get the worm. So people that apply sooner, we are going to accept people sooner as well. But be thoughtful about your responses. Do not get it in fast and bad. Get it in fast and thoughtfully. So now with the Q&A, here we are. And I have a chat window open, but I have 14 questions in here. So there's a question, what's been my best experience in my career journey? I would say going from a really shitty manager at Google to being one of the top 25 managers across all of Google and getting the Google Great Manager Award. Google gave me difficult feedback. They gave me specific feedback. They gave me the tools to improve upon it. I took it upon myself to improve upon it, got feedback from others, and became one of the best managers across Google. So that's an answer, Hillary. Another question. How long does it take before you were engaged with tech? I was always interested in technology. I'm not very technical myself. I don't know how to buy my YouTube ads. I'm working with a team for that. I don't know how to buy Google AdWords. I'm working with a team on that. But I was always enamored with technology. And also, I saw while I was at American Express that all these big tech companies treat people really well, pay people really well, and I can go to work in jeans. And now, hell, I'm wearing sweats and t-shirts. But back then, it was a pretty cool thing to go to work in jeans and a t-shirt. What strategy do I think is best for referrals? The best strategy for referrals is to reach out gradually and build the relationship, just like you would not go to a bar and ask a potential partner to get married. You need to warm people up. So first, you connect with them on LinkedIn or connect with them in some way. Reconnect with people that you know from your past. And you just say, hey, I see that you went to Binghamton like I did. I love connecting with former Binghamton alumni. Then for those that accept your connection, and a lot will, then you say, oh, I see you're also working at Spotify. It's a company that I'm really intrigued with and a place that I'm looking for potentially my next stop. Would you be open to providing someone from Binghamton with some career advice in the next couple of weeks? And then about half of the people will reply to that. And then you get that conversation going and you ask good questions through those conversations, and you don't ask for referrals, but through those conversations, through building those relationships, you will earn referrals where people will say, hey, Hillary, if you ever need any help getting a job at Spotify, feel free to reach out. Happy to put you in as a referral. That is what I call an earned referral, because if you ask someone for a referral, they are often going to say yes about 99% of the time. And I find only about 50% of people actually follow through on that referral. So you'd rather get someone that is volunteering that and that will follow through. Let's see. Next question. How does joining talent communities measure up in terms of usefulness to the candidate? Is there a better ROI than cold applying? Is it a waste of time? I have never heard of talent communities. My hunch is if they're asking you to pay money, probably a snake oil salesman. I've never heard of that. Is there a better ROI than cold applying? Is it a waste of time? So cold applying is not the best means. The best means is through building relationships and earning referrals. That's where you need to invest a lot of your time until you have those networks, until you have those relationships built at the company. When you see a role that is a good fit for you and your background at the companies where you want to work in a timely fashion, so a role that is less than a week old, get your application in. And then understand that you need to next figure out how to build relationships at that company. So next time when you see that great role, you don't need to go in through a cold application path. Question is, do I have a workbook or template to apply the growth framework? So better than that, I have a PDF that you can download on our website. And Alyssa, if you can put the link here in the chat to the growth framework, but everybody can go to our website, go to the free resources, choose the growth framework, and you can download that. And we tell you everything here. So you can do that. Next up, someone said they're very impressed, Mr. Stein. First, don't call me Mr. Stein. I sound like my dad. But I'm just kidding there. But even my friends, my kids' friends don't even call me Mr. Stein. They just call me Jonah's dad or Lucas's dad or Jasmine's dad. I don't even think they know my last name. Let's see, let me read this question. What essential mindset and competencies will I need to achieve my career goals? Grit. So Angela Duckworth wrote this great book called Grit. You need to have grit. You need to have that perseverance. You need to have comfort failing. Failing is an acronym for first attempt is learning. So you need to be comfortable with that. Also, another key attribute is to define your goals and clarify your goals. Do not be ambiguous with your goals. Don't just say, oh, I want to get a great job in tech. Well, okay, what companies can fulfill that? Okay, how do I reach out to those companies? So you need to define that goal and clarify that goal and then start putting the actions in place. How do you maintain relationships after you leave a company? For example, when you move on from company A and you add a person on LinkedIn, but you no longer work with that person, time passes and you're looking for a job and realize that that person works for a company you're applying for, but you have now only been reduced to LinkedIn contacts. Is it okay to ask for a referral? Yes. And there's something called weak ties. So there are strong ties. It could be your spouse or your best friend, someone that you're just always in contact with. And then there are these loose ties or weak ties, people that are in your past from years ago that maybe you had a coffee with or a beer with, or you worked on a project together, and you just haven't caught up with for like 5, 10, 20 years. Reach out to them. Say, hey, it's been a long time since we worked on X or Y project. It's been a long time since we went to school in Delaware or whatever. Love to hear what's going on with you. Love to reconnect. You connect based on that. And those conversations will be great. It'll be actually interesting to hear what's going on with them and their life, and for you to share a little bit of what's going on with you. And you can reestablish those relationships. And those relationships have done me so much good. The fact that I have relationships from Binghamton, I have relationships from Columbia Business School, I have relationships from Google, from Facebook, from Salesforce. I worked at UBS, I worked at CIBC, I worked at the New York Mets. I worked, like, having those relationships with people in the past, even if I haven't spoken to them in a while, you can reach out and you can reestablish those. So it's a huge value. Let's see. Someone was in a PhD program and decided to leave after a few years, but has been working in higher ed since. This person really wants to pivot careers and have completed one boot camp workshop so far, but otherwise doesn't have tech-specific experiences. Am I eligible for the scholarship as a person trying to transition that isn't already in the similar field to what you've discussed, mentioned on the website? So if that person should definitely apply, yes. But what I will suggest to that person is play to your strengths. I don't know what you did your PhD in, and even if you didn't get your PhD, I'm guessing you're pretty darn smart in some area, and you've probably had some other functional skills that you've applied in your life. Do that. Taking a boot camp, getting a certification is not going to prove to the next employer that you are capable of doing that. A lot of these boot camps, a lot of these certification programs are frankly a big waste of money. That's my opinion. I'm sure some people have a different perspective on it. I can tell you, when I hired people, I did not look at their certification. I did not look at boot camps they went to. That was a good indicator that they cared and they had a growth mindset, but I was not going to hire them for something that they were learning. I was going to hire them for their capability and skill set that they had. So when I hired someone for customer support working on YouTube ads, I didn't give a shit if they knew YouTube ads. But if they were working in customer support in some other way, and they demonstrated some interest in learning, and they've showed that they can learn, they were hired. And I hired people from Teach for America to work for me at Google. I hired people that were like a nuclear physicist that worked for me at Google. So I hired a consultant that worked for me at Facebook, and so on and so forth. So, but they demonstrated that their skills matched what I was looking for in the job, not that they just wanted to do that. Let's see. Would I suggest completing a certificate program before joining KCAP, the Career Accelerator program, or after? Again, the certification stuff, I don't have a lot of faith in. So regardless of do the certification if you're interested in it and you're eager to learn, but do not pay a lot of money for it. You can do a lot of that stuff for free, do it on your own time, and it's not going to get you the job often. It just isn't. Like, outside of some specific programs and organizations, like if you want to be a Salesforce administrator, yeah, you got to go through the trailhead training, and there are ways to do that. But the type of roles that I help people land, like professional roles, program managers, sales, customer success, operations, finance, product management, program management, you do not need a certification for that stuff. Do I support those in career transitions? Yes, I do, but I am going to heavily encourage you to play to your strengths. And it's also going to require a lot of outreach on your part. So I transitioned from venture capital to baseball. I transitioned from marketing to tech at Google. You can do the transition, but you need to do it correctly, and you need to build a lot of outreach. In the offer negotiation, do I have insight into the salary guides utilized by HR to set comp ranges against other companies, and can help determine the range that you basically, do I have the comp ranges that HR has? No, I do not have those, but I understand how they work. And essentially, when it's not even HR, it's recruiting, and people conflate HR. There's different areas of HR, but recruiting is a different arm of HR. Recruiting, when they make an offer to you, they have a range to work within, and they are almost never offering you the high end of the range because they expect negotiation to potentially occur, and they do not want to pay you the most right away. So I don't have the exact numbers, but I do have pretty good perspective of what sort of comp to expect. And there are multiple levers that you can play with: salary, bonus, sign-on bonus, and RSUs, restricted stock units. And most people don't understand restricted stock units, and restricted stock units are worth a shit ton of money and will build generational wealth for you. Let's see. So someone said, I think I applied on the main website application. Do I need to reapply with a link in the QR code? I believe we are providing a confirmation email once you submit your application. Hopefully Alyssa can reply to that. But if in doubt, I would use the QR code here and apply there. Someone applied to KCAP yesterday after attending the webinar and saying the fee is waived, but I got a reply today that I wasn't selected. Okay, so I have also career accelerator programs that are not 100% scholarships like this one. If someone applied to that, they are still welcome to apply to this this BIT scholarship, and I will look at that. So feel free to apply. If that person wants to just email me directly so they don't have to reapply and refill out stuff, they can, just so I know who that person is and I can deal with them individually, because that's a one-off issue. What advice can I give on certifications versus degrees combined with experience? You've done data analytics for 5 years, but your degrees don't reflect that, but you have certifications. How does that play out? Again, certifications, bullshit. They don't mean stuff. That's my opinion. So if you see people that are at the companies where you want to get into and they tell you something different, I would love to hear that feedback. But I can tell you, for the most part, your certifications are not going to differentiate you. Your degrees, getting a degree just to get a job, there's a lot more efficient ways to get a job than paying an institution to get a degree. I've got my degrees. They were worth it for me, but it was not solely for getting a job. I would not get a degree just for a job. What tech career would I suggest for a PhD in public health? I think there's lots of opportunities there. I think 23andMe is doing some interesting stuff. Like, there's lots of companies out there. Genentech is doing some interesting stuff. A lot of these pharma companies are doing interesting things. Amazon just bought One Medical, is doing some interesting things with public health. So there's lots of different opportunity there. It depends what in public health. My wife works in public health. So it's kind of too vague for me to answer, but there's lots of opportunity there. Can Nigerians participate if they are eligible to work outside of Nigeria? So if they're eligible to work in the US, or if they're eligible to work in Europe, if they're eligible to work in Singapore, and those three markets primarily. Otherwise, it's probably not, you should definitely apply, but it's going to be a long shot to get selected for the program. And the reason I'm not discriminating based on your country, but I'm discriminating based on the type of companies that are hiring in your country and the type of companies that I help people get into. So you can definitely apply, and I will look at your application. I will not discriminate based on that. But people that can work in the States, in Canada, in Singapore, in Dublin, in India, will have more advantages because that's where a lot of the tech companies hire a lot of people. What's the cost of the course without the scholarship? So the coaching program is about $10,000. It's $9,800. But for people in BIT, they get 25% off. So it'll be $7,500. The online course, KJAM, is $997. But people in Blacks in Tech get 25% off. So $250 off of that. So that's the cost of those courses if you do not get a scholarship. So anyone who's interested in that, I would suggest first go for the scholarship, because if you can get the scholarship, get the scholarship. And if you don't get that, these resources are really great. And there's a really fantastic scholarship that we're offering everybody, the $2,500 scholarship or discount for the coaching program, and $250 discount for the online course. What are some top tips to get through the program successfully? We give you all of those. We actually have you sign an agreement, but there's a rule of 40, 30, 20, 10. You need to set up 40 target companies. You need to be reaching out to 30 people a week, and we show you how to do that. And some of those can be existing people, some of them can be new people. You need to be getting 10 applications in per week, and you need to be having 5 informational interviews per week. And we help you do that. But that's a key requirement. Would you please recap my services? We're running low on time. We offer that on the website, and we're also going to send out a replay here. So you will see that recap. What would I recommend for a career changer or someone less than 5 years out of college with a non-tech major? So I offered some tips here. An additional tip is there's a great book called Switchers by Don Graham. And if you can't find that, you can email me and I'll send you the name of the book. But that's a good book. But a lot of that is building the outreach, having the conversations, and building and learning about the industry you're trying to get into. What was my process for reviewing high volumes of resume? What made one stand out from the rest? Great question. It's basically what I'm looking for here. Good companies, roles that they had, schools that they went to. Are they able to articulate their impact quantifiably? Have they had upward trajectory? And I personally look for that diverse candidates. So not everyone does that. I personally did that. Let's see. So with all these tech layoffs happening, Twitter, Meta, Spotify, and some of the FANG companies, is it okay if our target list of 40 companies do not include those FANG? Yes, I only suggest the FANGs. I only suggest the tech companies because they hire a lot. They're hiring less now, but they're still hiring a lot. They pay a lot. They treat you well. And but feel free, like I do encourage people to look at other companies. Again, I got someone into Johnson & Johnson. I got someone into ADP, helped get someone into Allstate. I helped someone get into Society Generale. So yes, you do not need to keep it only to tech and FANGs. The recording will be available. What untraditional skills do you think will set us apart when pivoting into tech? Motivation, persistence, a growth mindset, a willingness, like an ability and desire to build connections and networking. What's an effective way to get referrals without making it seem involuntary? What type of events, specifically instances? I kind of shared that a little bit. And we have that more with the growth framework, so you can learn about that on our website. Is there a criteria around length of career? Is a program focused towards those early in their career? That's a good question. Generally, people, like, we will not make our decision based on that, but usually people with a few years or more of experience are more successful in the program. Let's say, Are college students in their senior or junior year with internship experience eligible to apply? Apply. It's going to be a long shot, but yeah, like if you can really blow me away with your application, I will definitely consider you. Lots of questions about Nigerians applying. Again, you can apply. It will be a tougher process, but put a lot of work in the application. I will read your applications. How can one be more analytical, data-minded in terms of product program roles that require strategy and business insights? That's a very specific question. Like do the work. Do the work and demonstrate that you're doing the work. And if you're not doing the work, learn online, but you're likely not going to get into the role like that just because you're doing the work off in online courses. So play to your strengths, but learn the other stuff and figure out how to stretch yourself in your current role to take on more opportunities in the areas that you're interested in. Yes, you'll be given tips on how to play to your strengths. The question is, if I was impacted by layoffs, should I include that on my resume if I was only there for 6 months? Your resume is a marketing tool, so you choose to put on there what you want. However, do not lie. They will find you out. But if you don't want to put something on, that's not a lie. But they may ask you, what's up with this gap? There's ways to creatively demonstrate that there was not a gap there, but you choose what to put on your resume. Let's see, I filled out the application, but there was more than one demographic that I applied for. Do I submit another application? No. So we do ask of you to self-identify your gender and your what race or what groups you self-identify with. There's check boxes. Just check the ones that apply to you. So do not submit a second application. We're only going to look at one. So that's it. Those are all the questions. We went a little bit over. Apologies for that, but please do apply. I really love the Blacks in Tech organization. I'm wearing my t-shirt here that I got down at the Orlando conference if anyone was there and met me there. But yes, please apply. I look forward to chatting with you soon. And don't forget, you own your career, and Kadima helps accelerate it. Bye-bye.